Here's Heather.
You got the plan. Where's that in there?
Why have we bought these?
What have we got?
No, it's terrible.
Oh, yeah.
Can you check it out?
Classic. This is how gamers do champagne. That was a satisfying plot. Almost. Just about. Champagne out of a bottle doesn't taste
Basically, I just got a mouth from the bottom now.
You want to take?
Yeah.
It simulates Batman.
I don't think this
By the simulator. That gets you pissed.
So that we don't have to do it.
you take it.
Drink more. Is that how you get out of bed? Random and passable.
Speech! Stand up!
But mind your
Give the
head.
speech now. I'll say something later.
Damn it.
Wait until he's pissed.
You're a crap president.
Oh. That's why we get
Actually, it was a crap president.
Why don't we get the founder to say something?
You wouldn't do it, but he'd try. The guy's a machine.
We go in the garden high centre.
Oh, yes,
Yes, no, yeah.
The sign on the way here. It's like, oh, just get some. And then everyone who grew up in the college would be like, you know, why would you want to go there?
We can play it in the camping here. It's like,
Oh, she's on now.
love everyone's got their own different approach to that. I just launch themselves out.
Matt, you have your light on. Right, Matt? Hello, Mark.
Said whoever came out first. Potluck.
Oh, I like your sticker. How so Ricky.
Specific people that should probably be mentioned. Is it Dave Lloyd that's come from America? Right. Steve and Ellie who have come over from Sweden for the weekend. As well as the many members who were members in the 80s, specifically Rue Walters, who set up the club to begin with. So, and he'll say a few words after me, I think. But then the obvious person who I haven't mentioned is Gary here, who I think effectively has single-handedly put this whole event together. So I think a huge thanks to Gary for all the effort that he's put in. Valley entrance today. I thought that was really great. 22 or so people, and I think we maybe disproved the 30 years of that. I thought it was quite efficient.
Yeah, but only 21 came out.
That was really good to see. Something else, if people haven't had a look, go and have a look at the timeline in the bar, because it's got all sorts of bits and pieces about who was members, committee members on expedition born in whatever year. So if you've got any mistakes or stuff that can be added, then go and put them on. But just from like a personal... But just from a personal perspective, for a minute, 4 years ago I had sort of no idea what caving was really about. And I came
Now you know more.
I came along to the Freshers' Fair not really knowing what I wanted to do. And I remember Andy G, he probably doesn't remember, but he collared me at the Freshers' Fair and gave me a sort of the usual 5-minute spiel about how amazing caving is. So next thing I knew, I was off on my way to Longship. And I think it's absolutely fantastic that within a year I had the opportunity to go to France with a group of people to go try and get down the Berger. And within 3 years of that, I was part of a 23-person expedition to Montenegro. And I think it's fantastic that there's a group that can give such amazing opportunities in what is such a small space of time. So, and I think that's a sort of and I think it's fantastic all the efforts that everyone here has put in to make that possible for everyone else. So thank you very much.
We've moved on, and how things have changed and how things haven't changed at all. It's quite staggering, really. I've got a few things to show you, and I want to also entice you. Yeah, I've had that bit removed, so that's not going out there. And I also want to entice you with a few ideas about what you might do with your caving exploits in the future. It's really quite staggering that since 1981, you know, what started as a stupid idea when we were all pissed in a pub has turned into this. You know, I came up from London, and there wasn't a York University caving club. It blew my mind. I thought the one university that would have a club would be York, and it didn't. So I went into town and joined the local caving group, which was then called the York Speleological Group. And that's where I'm at, that hairy little bastard over there. And it's quite interesting that Dave and I are actually the two people in this room who were on the original, very first York University Caving Club trip, which was down Lawrence Moor. And we got lost! I've got a few other things to say along that. But there's a couple of things. I want to skip through these slides to tell you the origin of some of these slides, because I'm sure you don't know. Can we go to the crocodile? Yeah? Can I tell you does anyone know what the origins of the crocodile is? I left York University and went to work for Roundtrees, where I was there for 2 years. And Roundtrees sacked me because I kept on going on caving expeditions. But as a leaving do, they gave me this crocodile because I was going on a trip to Madagascar to the crocodile caves of Ankarana. And by the way, nobody, as far as I'm aware, has ever been back since, because the caves really are full of crocodiles. And if you're a young lad there, you think, oh, crocodiles, they don't scare me. Bullshit. There's a 7-metre long crocodile in the water. I can assure you, it really is quite nerve-wracking. One of the occasions that I have been quite scared underground, of which a few more later. Anyway, now there's another one here. I want to go through to the squeeze in Arguelles. Where is it? Squeeze in Arguelles. God almighty. Keep going. Stop. Can anyone see it? Can you see it, Dave? No. Keep going. I want to tell you the story of
Why don't you tell us the story of top bit?
Well, the story, it's around about here, it's there. That's the one there. Yeah, that's the one there. You've got friends in caving, and you rely on them, and in some ways you rely on your life on them. This is actually myself in a squeeze called the Gates of Cadiz in Hoya de las Guillas, which is one of our first notable caves that we explored in Spain in the summer of 1983, I think it was. Forgive me if I'm a year out. And this photograph was taken by Dave Lloyd, who's come from America. Yeah, very good friend Dave Lloyd. And when this squeeze was discovered, it was first passed by Tim Fuster, that little fat bastard over there. Believe it or not, there was a day when he could get through that. Yeah. And he reported it back to me, and I was duty bound to explore beyond it. Oh, it's not very far, it's only about 25 feet. So he just hung a ladder. Can you remember what a ladder is? On a bolt on the other side of this squeeze down into this void. Well, I went through and I went to the bottom of the ladder and found myself in a bit of a space. No lifeline, no nothing, so I came back. And that might well be me on the way back. That 25-foot pitch was nearer 500 foot. Anyway, so I go back to the things. Go back to the things and show you just later on.
Root, I'm sure you're wrong there. I was definitely had the Spanish attitude to caves.
Oh, this
if it was less than about 10-foot diameter, it wasn't worth trying. It's closed down. This is not possible.
And this is the Belay on Arguelles. There's about 400 or 500 feet beneath his feet. And again, this is Dave Headley on that pitch, photograph taken by Dave Lloyd. So that just goes to show you, we did do some pretty hard stuff. And I want to set some challenges here. We did some pretty hard stuff in our days, and we had some pretty hard cavers. I still think that one of the hardest cavers I've ever met in my life is over there. His name's Neil Kemp. Yeah, he really has got no brain at all. Yeah, and he really has pushed some of the tightest, hardest things I've ever seen anybody push, and stuff that I've not managed to repeat. But one caving trip, and forgive me if my memory's wrong, because I'm sure it is with Neil, we did tackle and de-tackle Quaking Pot. Now, how many people have done that? Well done. Respect. Well done. If those of you haven't done it, it is well worth doing. I think we were enticed to it because it has something in it called Coitus Corner. And we didn't get any of that, you see, in our day because we were young and stupid. So I think it's probably the closest thing we got to Coitus that year. But never mind. Never mind. So that was good. Anyway. Talking of people, I've mentioned Tim Fuster here. I will always remember Tim for one little thing that happened in this trip in Spain. I think it was Kathy who got the bug first, if I may remember rightly. Towards the end of the trip, we all had a little bit of dose of Spanish belly. And we were de-tackling and bringing all the kit down. And I was with Tim, and it was about the third time down the mountain that year. And he came... There was this sort of, oh Christ, I've got to go, oh God, I've got to go, and he disappeared behind a tree. 10 minutes later, there's nothing. What's going on? And then there's this sort of like, help! Do you really want me to help you? Yes. Anyway, I'm going around behind the tree, expecting to see the worst for wear, and he's got his trousers down by his knees, yeah, wanting obviously to relieve himself. Anyway, he got it totally wrong because he'd thrown up into his underpants. Anyway, can we go to the YUCPC ones? Let's go to a few of the YUCPC. There are a number of people here who aren't here, and I just want to highlight a few people. The club was actually started by myself and a gentleman by the name of Dr. Simon Fowler, who had come from Oxford University, who at the time were exploring a cave called Pothou del Gitu in the Picos. And at that time, they'd got it very, very deep. And in 1981, I was lucky to go with Simon out to the Picos on my first Picos trip. And we got the cave down to a sump at 1,139 metres. Now, I didn't get to the bottom for one reason or another. There are obviously many more people who are more justified and more deserving of trips to the bottom than myself. But it was still a staggering opportunity to go on the trip. But let's be honest, Simon and I didn't always get on that well. Yeah, one of those things, I'm sure it's happened in your day. But one particular trip, yeah, very novice cavers, I've never been so glad to see Simon in all my life. And it started off like this. I think it was Tim and Dave and I were going to do a trip from Top Sink to Lancaster Hole. Yeah, I think that's right. And it was a lovely December day, snow on the ground, lovely. Now, I'd been into County Pot, so I knew the bit around Stockpot and all around there. I knew all that bit, but I hadn't done any of the other cave. Found Top Sink, fine, no problem at all. Simon had told us the trip would take us about 5 hours. We got to Limerick Junction and basically got totally lost. It was Dave that found the way on after about 2 hours of looking. And eventually we made our way all the way down the cave, and about 8 hours later we found the ladder coming up to Lancaster Hole, and out the pot we came. Wrapped up the ladders, put the ladders down on the ground, everyone's happy, and Dave turned to me and his face went from happy the trip's over to one of shock horror, because he realised at that point, I'd never been to Lancaster Hole, there was fresh snow on the ground, and I had no fucking idea which way to walk in the pitch black. And Simon bounded over the hill, and fortunately we were all okay. But really, I really had at that point no idea where to go. So here, let's have a look at some of the early slides. Let's go to probably this one here, this one here. Let's have a look at some of these and see where we go. Can we step through these? Yeah. This, of course, is our original Land Rover. Yeah. And you'll recognise the garages, because they're the same garages I think you see in some other ones. This Land Rover was bought for about 1,500 quid, with various sorts of money, and a couple of years later, on a subsequent trip, a certain gentleman managed to write it off.
Steve.
No, Neil, who turned it upside down on the road and absolutely wrote it off. Fortunately, none of them were hurt. Why weren't they hurt? They were all blind drunk. So let's step through some of those. Again, I think this is actually, this is quite interesting. We'll come back to this lady later on. Her name's Nicola. Yeah, but this I think is, that was Andy Kerr, I think. So let's move through some of these. Now this is Dave. Can anyone tell me what that is? Useless.
It's a cave. Gingling Hole.
Gingling Hole, absolutely. Gingling Hole. That's the Fool's Paradise in Gingling Hole. If none of you have ever been there, it is still a fantastic trip. I actually went down about 3 years ago, and it's actually it's still as good as it always is. It really is quite the most staggering place. This is the traverse above that bypasses, I think, the fourth pitch, and it's still as precarious as it always was. Photographs taken by Simon Fowler. No idea who that is, Tim. Sorry, lost on that. Yeah. And of course, Tim likes to go to Spain, so he likes himself in the paper, don't you, Tim? This wasn't the only time we got in the paper. Unfortunately, there was a trip. And let me tell you the truth about this trip. We did get a call out in the early days. We were down Tatham Wife, and the heavens opened on us. And we were flooded in for about 6 hours. But we did manage to make our own way out. But the papers were absolutely staggering. If you'd believe the papers, you'd have had us clinging on ledges for our dear lives while the water rose up about our neck. Not a bit of it. We were smoking dope. So, the levels go down. So it's just not true at all. So carry on. We were notoriously bad at finding cave entrances. Absolutely rubbish. Now, I can't for the life. I think that's Tim, and I think that might be Dave. That might be Dave, but I'm not 100% sure. We're absolutely notorious at finding cave entrances. We were also not always the best when it came to coming out of caves, because we happily de-rigged Cherry Tree Hole, which this might actually be, but I'm not 100% sure. And isn't it? Well, whatever. We happily de-rigged this cave, went down to the pub to discover there was someone missing. It was Dave, he was still in the cave. Yeah. I'm afraid there wasn't much of a hurry to go and get him, but never mind. Anyway, let's move on. I have no idea where this is, but Interestingly, wetsuits. One big way that things have changed is we still use the same SRT gear as we do. And the stuff, I still use the same jammers on a trip just recently that I've been using since York University days. They're 30 years old and they still work just fine. But one of the big things is we don't use wetsuits anymore at all. It's all changed to much more sensible and much more comfortable things. Let's just move on and see how we go. See how we go. Again, I'm lost on that one. I don't know. Unfortunately, of course, most of these photographs. This is Andy. I don't know. We're obviously learning how to bolt before we go to Spain. One of the things that's changed is you don't use these things anymore. You use bloody drills. It makes life so much easier. And this is quite interesting because obviously Tim and Meg is still at York University, by the way. She runs the electron microscope in the biology lab. She's still there. And Meg, actually, and I and a chap by the name of Kevin Dixon have been in Mooloo recently. So we're actually still caving. And the staggering thing is just how many of us are actually still caving. Not as often as we used to. We have funny things called children's and wives and things like that which seem to get in the way. But we are still caving. But interestingly, one of the things I was going to say is all my stuff is on slides. And I brought my slide projector along, which of course is gazillions of years old. And the first thing it did when I switched it on was it blew up. So I'm deeply indebted to Tim, who had to scan some of these photographs digitally so he could use them. But one of the things I wanted to show you was a picture of me and Meg in 1983, obviously looking young and healthy in our early 20s. And a picture taken 3 weeks ago in Mooloo in Borneo of me and Meg again. And the only thing I would say is Meg still looks 21 and I look about 106. But never mind. This is some of our early practices on Malham Cove, which I'm sure you've done many, many times yourselves. So, where do we go from here? What of the future? I don't want to go on forever. It really is quite staggering that everyone's here. I'm tickled pink, and I'm also slightly horrified, really, because when you go to dinners and things, it's always some old man with a grey beard giving the after-dinner speech. It's come round to me.
That's why you shaved off.
Yeah, absolutely. But I want to move on to two things. I mean, I've been very lucky. I've caved all over the world. I've caved on all 6 continents that there are. I haven't caved in, I've even managed to cave in Antarctica, which is quite something. And really, the opportunities are out there for everybody to go and take advantage of these things. And the only thing, all these guys will admit that I ain't the best caver in the world. I'm not. But I've been very, very lucky. But the one thing I've got is damn cheek. Yeah? Damn cheek. Can I come on your trip? Yeah, all right. And usually, if you ask, can I go on your trip? Every now and again the answer is yes. There aren't enough people going to China, and there are opportunities abound to go to China. There aren't enough people going to Mooloo, and I'll show you a few slides of that in a minute to entice you. The average age of the caver on the Mooloo trip this year was 54. Yeah. The first day I got there, I went on a caving trip with Andy Evis. You may have read in the press release, I doubt whether some of you might know him, I don't know. But a caver, he's 64 years old, and that caving trip was 40 hours long. Yeah. The thing about Mooloo is the trip length is absolutely phenomenally long. Meg and Kevin Dixon went on a 4-day camping trip underground to survey Sarawak Chamber, the largest chamber in the world. And that's the sort of thing that you've got to do. But actually, the caving is very, very easy. Can I move on to get out of this section? I want to go back. That's it. I want to go back to this picture here. This picture here. This is actually my daughter. Yeah, Rachel, age 15. And this is us 2 years ago exploring New Passage in Mooloo together. Yeah. It isn't that difficult caving. But if you want to be at the bleeding edge of it, anyone, the thing about it that makes it hard is that the trips are very, very long. But it's quite special actually when you go on and life changes and actually your kids start taking a little bit of an interest in some of the things that you do. She's grown up since then. She's a couple of years older and she's a budding teenager and now is into lipstick and boys, but never mind. It shows you what you can do, and there's another picture on here. Yeah, that one there. Yeah. And this was another trip we did. This gentleman here is Isaac Willis, Dick Willis's son. Dick Willis is a caver of old, big Mooloo man. Went on the original Mooloo trip in 1979, and this is his son. And we've just explored a cave there called Racer's Cave, which is full of snakes and bats and horrible creepy crawlies, and it's really quite exciting. But it shows you what you can do if you want to. If you want to just move on to, yeah, this one here. There are a couple of other people I should mention. People in York University have gone on to do some quite stunning things from those early days. There's a lady by the name of Martha Holmes, whose name you will have heard of. Yeah, she was an original York University caver. She has gone on to be a BBC film producer and was a producer on the Blue Planet series, the Nile series, and the Human Planet series that have just been on. Very, very successful film producer. Simon Fowler himself is probably one of the world's leading rice entomologists, now based in Christchurch in New Zealand, and he has had a pretty rough time, I understand, over the last few months, as you can understand. That's probably one of the reasons why he's not here, because he's rebuilding his house. But this young lady here, Nikki, was one of the early ladies, and I was very, very lucky to take my two daughters, the two daughters on the other side, to see her. She lives in Colorado, but she's gone on to be a mountaineer of some repute. She's climbed Mount McKinley, she's climbed Aconcagua, and recently she just summited Choayu, an 8,000 metre peak in the Himalayas. So she's doing a tremendous amount still, and that's what you see from everybody around here. You know, the York University Club started off as a bunch of cavers, and I think probably the biggest thing that it did for us is instill a love of life, a love of adventure, and a willingness to go on and see the world and make the most of it. And, you know, if there's anything I say to you guys here who are a bit younger, the world is your oyster. You know, go out and grab it. If you want to go to Mulu, go to Hidden Earth. Yeah, go to Hidden Earth. And after the lecture, go up to Tim Allen or whoever gives the lecture and say, "Can I come?" If you want to go, the chances are that you'll be able to go. It's not a problem. If you want to go to Vietnam, the same thing. If you want to go to Meghalaya in India, the same thing. And particularly China. 3 trips this year that would potentially had sponsorship from the Gar Parao, were cancelled because there weren't enough people to go. Yeah. So if you want to do more, do it. And I'll tell you what, as you get older, a few of us have had into our close to our 50s have had a few health problems. Your health doesn't last forever. So take a bloody advantage of it while you can. You can't take it with you. Get out there, enjoy yourself, and have a bloody good time. I'm going to leave you while we carry on with a few pictures of Mulu to try and entice you into thinking about coming. I'm not going to talk them through because they're all sort of fairly, they're fairly self-explanatory. But I'm still here. I'm 49 years old. I'm still caving. It's done a tremendous amount for me. And the best thing about the whole thing all is I've got some fantastic friends. And they're still here, they're still healthy, and they're still as stupid and as drunk and as horrible as they always were, but I love it to bits. Thank you very much.